national parks of Wales cover 20% of its land surface, have a resident population of over 80,000 people, and account for over £500 million of the Welsh economy. They are of vital importance to the environmental, social, and economic health of the nation. The parks, Brecon Beacons, Pembrokeshire Coast, and Snowdonia are internationally important examples of how working landscapes can be protected. The concept of a protected landscape, a protected area within which people live and work, is of increasing importance in global conservation terms. Snowdonia, established in 1951, is an area marked by lakes, hills, moorlands, waterfalls, castles, and steam railways in North Wales. It was the first to be designated a national park in Wales and the third national park in Britain. It covers an area of 2,142 square kilometres, but in contrary to most national parks, it consists of both public and private lands. Pembrokeshire Coast, established in 1952, is the only coastal national park in the United Kingdom, covering an area of 629 square kilometres. It is marked by spectacular sandy beaches and rugged hills. The beauty of Pembrokeshire Coast National Park can be admired from the coastal path that runs along the entire coast, and most of the land of Pembrokeshire Coast is privately owned. Brecon Beacons, established in 1957, is the third national park of Wales. It's located in a mountain range in South Wales and covers an area of 1,344 square kilometres and is famous for its high peaks, spectacular valleys, moorlands, lakes, caves and waterfalls. National parks are national in the sense that they are of special value to the whole of Wales. Each National Park Authority is a freestanding local government body with each authority comprising of members appointed by the Senedd and of local councillors drawn from local authorities who have land within that national park. An estimated 12 million people visit the three Welsh national parks each year, and 3/4 of the population of Wales make a visit to a national park annually, benefiting from the great outdoors, with recreation and tourism being important for both the local economy and for people's health and well-being. With so many people visiting the national parks and climbing well-known mountains like Pen y Fan and Snowdon, and Welsh beaches being busier than normal in March 2020, the Welsh Government and national park authorities had to act to force people to stay away during the coronavirus outbreak. People in Wales and the rest of the UK were instructed to stay at home, and unnecessary travel was banned. Whilst exercise and outdoor activity were deemed important for people's health, guidance required people to not travel from their home and to stay local. Nevertheless, a high volume of people chose to ignore these rules, and the three national parks saw a rise in visitors to the beauty spots. Despite Welsh police forces stopping and turning away several hikers and visitors who had travelled from London and further afield, something more drastic had to be done to help protect essential public services like the NHS, which were at risk of being overwhelmed. To deter people from travelling to these areas for exercise, the national parks closed car parks, closed trails, and changed the messages to stay local and avoid travel. It meant shifting services to home working and finding new and innovative ways for delivering services and maintaining and protecting these important areas of Wales. Looking back, with so much going on, it's important we reflect on what happened, what worked, and how this learning is being used going forward. To help us do this, we have interviewed Tegrin Jones and Libby Taylor from Pembrokeshire Coast National Park and Emyr Williams from Snowdonia National Park to get their views on the last 12 months.
Well, there are a couple of things, one of which is definitely the sort of digitisation of services, and we've had to update and refine some of our processes, and we've had to think really hard about how we do things, and that will, I'm sure, make us more efficient in the way that we do things in the future. But the other thing is around collaboration, not only internally, but also with other partners and the sort of team Pembrokeshire approach with Pembrokeshire County Council, Natural Resources Wales, the Coast Guard, the police, the RNLI, whole suite of other sort of public service organisations who really collaborated together, particularly around the sort of challenging times when tourism was reopened and we were very much inundated with visitors. There was a very strong collective response to how we tackled the various issues that arose. And I feel that we've forged some new, there were existing partnerships, but I feel we've forged much stronger partnerships now. We're intending to continue that approach into the future, and that's what's the biggest thing.
Right. First weekend of pre-lockdown, we saw a vast number of people enjoying national parks, even though there was a clear message by the Prime Minister to stay away. So obviously on that Saturday morning of 21st of March sticks in my mind, and by tea time Saturday we had worked out a plan of action, because obviously this was of great concern to all. So we went public as Snowdonia, and then Brecon and Pembrokeshire joined us as a joint message saying that the area is closed. And on the Monday morning, we did close our car parks to reinforce that message. And we worked quite closely in a very short period of time with other national parks, with the police, with local authorities, NRW and Welsh Government to get that consistent message out on behalf of Wales. What we realised, we had to do it through social media, targeted media, Facebook postings into our usual centres like Liverpool, Manchester, Birmingham, etc.
Prior to the lockdown was an evolving picture. I think we recognised that things were really surprising. The whole county in Pembrokeshire was very busy. People were coming here possibly in anticipation that things were going to get difficult. We sort of had to work out what we could do, but also try to engage local communities as well. So local communities, some were very supportive. We had regular contacts with the tourism industry, and it was quite interesting how they evolved their thinking over a couple of hours in terms of what was expected. I think it's clear to say that it was such an unusual and almost an unexpected situation that probably a week earlier, if you'd say we were acting in the way we were planning to do, we wouldn't have possibly believed it. And so moved very, very quickly, had to respond and work with partners. In our case, we took a decision to close car parks, but most of our beach car parks are alongside those run by Pembrokeshire County Council. Therefore, it made no sense for us to take an action and them not to, or vice versa. Therefore, we tried to work and develop a coordinated approach, and also engage with Welsh Government, who were busily passing regulations to enable some of the decisions, such as closing the coast path and the rights of way network. And so it was very much of taking the opportunities when they arose, and then seeing what actions we could take.
Ie, dwi'n meddwl ar prif bethau dwi wedi sylwi ydy y gwerthfawrogiad o'n cymunedau lleol, bod ni wedi ymateb yn sydyn, a bod nhw'n teimlo bod yn cael ei gwarchod, bod y Parc Cenedlaethol wedi cymryd y cam cywir yn yr amser cywir mwyn ei gwarchod. Rhaid ni gofio adeg hynny ym mis Mawrth, oedden ni'n mynd deall sut oedd y feirws yn ymddwyn, a felly oedd rhaid ochel ar yr ochr llall. Yn rhyfeddol, bobl di ailgysylltu efo cymunedau, di ailgysylltu efo natur. Y prif beth dwi wedi weld gen trigolion lleol ydy bod ni wedi mwynhau'r ardal i'w nhw hunan. A mae hynny wedi codi wrach efo rhai o tensiynau rhwng cymunedau lleol a twristiaeth. Ond y llonyddwch, dwi'n meddwl, ydy'r prif beth sydd wedi taro bobl. Ddim beiciau modur yn brasio trwy'r Parc Cenedlaethol a sŵn yr ardal bach. So mae... Ac i'r ymwelwyr oedd methu dwad, dwi'n meddwl beth sydd wedi digwydd fan'na, bod nhw wedi cael amser i feddwl, adlewyrchu beth sy'n bwysig iddyn nhw, a maen nhw wedi cadarnhau yn y cyfnod pan nath i ail agor i fyny, oedden ni'n brysur iawn. Felly mae'r cyfnod yma wedi dyfnhau gwerthfawrogiad y cyhoedd o Barciau Cenedlaethol hefyd.
Ti'n meddwl yn gyntaf tro yma?
Chdi ta?
Ie. Wel, dwi'n credu bod yr effaith, dwi'n credu oedd yna effaith o syndod ar bawb, bod neb yn siŵr iawn beth oedd yn digwydd. Oedd y penderfyniad falle yn haws ar un ffordd, achos wrth i ni gymeryd y penderfyniad i gau, fe nath y Llywodraeth gau popeth. Felly, bydde wedi bod yn diddorol pe bai ni ond ni wedi cau, pa effaith bydde hwnna wedi cael. Dwi'n credu unwaith i bydda'r setlo lawr, oedd yna gyfle falle i bobl unwaith o'n nhw'n sylweddoli beth o'n nhw'n gallu wneud, i ddarganfod yr ardal yn agosach i adre. Oedd y reolau yn glir, mae dim ond cael ymarfer corff o adre, felly oedd yna gyfle i bobl ddarganfod yr ardal leol, ddarganfod llwybrau, falle oedd nhw ddim yn gyfarwydd dda, a gweld beth oedd ar ei stepen drws. Dwi'n hefyd yn credu nodwyd gyda nifer am adfywiad bywyd gwyllt. Oedd pobl yn mynd allan ac yn clywed yr adar yn canu. Felly oedd yna elfennau positif yna, ond wrth gwrs oedd hwnna'n dod ar dros cefndir o ofid sylweddol am iechyd gyhoeddus ac effaith economaidd ac y llu o bethau arall. I think the challenges were numerous, but possibly you can look at them. One of the great difficulties, we were managing the external and the internal pressures. So we had quite a challenge in terms of closures and sending messages out at the same time as we were transferring our organisation to work from home and to continue to work in a very different environment. And, you know, I'm immensely grateful to our staff who responded very positively to that. But, you know, we were at one point trying to find signs to close the car parks, at the same time trying to make sure we had enough laptops and phones there. So it was quite a balancing act. You know, one of the challenges we had with staff dispersed across the county was to communicate expectations and new ways of working. And, you know, main way we could, possibly the only way we could do this was to be sending emails to staff and then following up with managers who were dealing with queries from individual staff. So it was quite a challenge during a short period of time.
In terms of challenges, I think one of the main things were timescales in the early period of shutdown, because the regulations came out which allowed national parks to close specific areas in order to stop the spread of the virus. So the timescales were very tight. We had something like 36 hours to turn from a regulation to action on the ground. So staff had to work very, very quickly. And the challenge there also was to decide in that very short period of time where to close. You know, we had different scenarios. So we used the data on visitor usage that we had in the park to decide what our honeypots were and where they were. So we did shut popular mountains, as you would expect, Snowdon, etc. But actually we only shut 11% of the area of the park. And we did that purposefully because we were mindful that local people wanted that opportunity to exercise from their own doorsteps. So the extra challenge also in the early period was of relocating staff to work from home. Myself and senior managers were in different shops around the county buying laptops for the staff. You know, there was a real shortage of hardware then. Yeah, dwi'n meddwl sydd yn ymateb i'r heria oedd o rhaid ni gymryd agwedd llai risg averse fel corff. O rhaid ni benderfyniad sydyn. Fel arfer, fysa ni wedi creu cil sawl gwaith ar ymateb cyn gweithredu. Oedden ni wedi cael yn gwthio i gornel lle o rhaid ni defnyddio pwerau dirprwedig fel swyddogion ac adrodd nôl i'r aelodau wedyn lle. ac oedd ei bwysigiadw'r aelodau yn y lwg mewn ffordd, ac oedd yn ei hynny trwy llythyrau gwybodaeth fel oedd yr angen. Ond dwi'n meddwl bod yna'r un corff wedi paratoi ar gyfer pandemig o'r math yma. Ond beth sgyn bob corff ydy disaster recovery plan. A oedden ni'n defnyddio egwyddorion yn y cynllun yna mwyn rheoli y cyfnod rheolaeth Covid. Felly oedd gen ni grŵp project gath i dynnu fyny ar ôl diwrnod 2 o Covid, ac nath hwnna gyfarfod bob diwrnod am 3 mis cyntaf, ac yna bob yn ail diwrnod am gweddill y cyfnod Covid.
Ie, wnaethon ni ymateb falle drwy newid y ffordd o weithio, ac yn bennaf yn hwnna oedd creu grŵp bach oedd yn gwneud y penderfyniadau ac yn reoli'r sefyllfa. Ac nath hwnna weithio'n dda iawn, achos oedd y broses o benderfynu mewn criw bach, ac felly o'n i'n gallu rhannu a cwrdd yn reolaidd yn ddyddiol, ac ambell i ddornod mwy yn fwy reolaidd. Mae'n deg i weid falle nad oedd pawb yn hapus da hwnna, ac oedd rai yn teimlo o bosib bod nhw'n cael ei gadael allan. Ond dwi ddim yn credu bod y sefyllfa yn gweddu i drafodaeth ar raddfa eang fyna, felly dyn ni yn ddigon hapus gyda hwnna. Cyfathrebu yn sialens wedig ar pa mae angen anfon gwybodaeth allan ar fyrybydd, ac o bosib bod y cyfle i bobl gamddehongli beth o'n i'n meddwl. Felly oedd negeseuon yn mynd allan, a wedyn oedd yn bwysig bod ni yn ar gael i helpu bobl i fod yn glir beth oedd yn cael ei ystyried. Felly nifer o sialens. Pam ddath y cyfnod o ail-agor, anodd iawn gwneud y penderfyniad, cydbwysedd rhwng pobl am deithio, pobl ddim am neb i ymweld. Dwi'n credu ni yn Sir Benfro oedd cyflwyno'r ffin teithio 5 milltir yn dipyn o sialens, achos oedd pawb yn Sir Benfro yn ystyried bod nhw 5 milltir o'r môr, ac felly nath hwnna arwain at bobl yn teithio, ac o'n i ddim wedi bwriadu agor y meysydd parcio, oedd e'n golygu bod bobl yn cyrraedd llefydd bach Glan Môr ac yn parcio dros y lle i gyd. O bosib, dim ond ychydig filltirodd i ffwrdd. Felly oedd gorfod ymateb i hwnna a sicrhau bod y neges gyson i bobl byd o teithio ymhellach yn parhau. Felly oedd cael y cydbwysedd hwnna yn eitha anodd. I think we're proud of lots of things. I think we're proud of how generally the organisation responded, and while we certainly hadn't prepared for a pandemic and a response, a lot of processes we had in place were fit for purpose for situations like this. I think we showed when we need to be, we can be very flexible and respond to circumstances, which I think stands us in good stead for the future. I think the communication aspect, worked really well, both internally, but also I think the 3 national park authorities played a really positive role in terms of communication about the need or to avoid visiting Wales. I think the national parks became a bit of a proxy for Wales, and therefore when we sent out messages not to visit, I think they were taken in a wider context than just visiting the parks. I think our staff responded brilliantly. I think they're used to taking the initiative, and then when we were able to give them the freedom to do that, they really stepped up to the mark there. And despite some of the trying situations they found themselves in as well, and certainly they were very open to helping communities and other organisations as well where there was a need.
I think amongst the things I'm proud of is the way that the staff have reacted, and the way that we allowed staff to use their incentives, or incentivise staff to do the right things, because staff were usually, especially staff on site, had to make decisions on the day. And obviously, we were in uncharted waters with COVID. I think also that the way that the staff supported each other, different forums on WhatsApp and whatever, Facebook groups were set up to support and provide mutual support for staff. That worked well. But I think also amongst the highlights is the deepening of the understanding with, sorry, should have put my phone down.
Well, I think probably it's the speed that we were able to act at. So very quickly being able to respond and get out there. And I think that was really, really appreciated by our local communities, that, if somebody rang up and they had a problem, we were able to go out and deal with it. We were able, for example, where we had landowners on public footpaths who were concerned because they were shielding or they felt vulnerable and they were worried about people walking through their property, and we were able to visit those locations and put up some bespoke signs for those people to provide a bit of reassurance. And I think that personal contact with people who had concerns really made a big difference to people, and we would always try and respond that way, but rather than giving people a generic answer, to actually respond personally is really important.
Dwi'n meddwl bod ni wedi dysgu bod ni yn gallu gweithio mewn ffordd gwell, mwy ffeithlon, gallu gwneud penderfyniadau mewn modd mwy cyflym, ond hefyd gallu gwneud mwy o fusnes yn rhithiol. Chydig iawn sy'n ni'n meddwl ar dechrau y cofnod, sy'n ni yn cynnal cyfarfodydd ffurfiol yr awdurdod drwy Zoom a Teams ac yn y blaen. Felly mae o wedi newid yr dynamics o sut da ni yn gwneud busnes, a mae hynny i werthfawrogi. Dwi'n meddwl hefyd, mae wedi newid y ffordd da ni'n gael negeseuon allan i'n cwsmeriad, yn bobl lleol ac yn ymwelwyr, ac mae rôl y cyfryngau cymdeithasol wedi bod yn bwysig iawn yn cadw pawb ynghlwm efo gwaith o angen i wneud yn yr eri.
Ni wedi dysgu bod yna ffordd wahanol o weithio, a bod hwnna'n gallu gweithio'n llwyddiannus. Dwi'n credu pe bawn ni wedi ystyried blwyddyn yn ôl bydde mwyafrif o staff yn gweithio o adre, bydde hwnna wedi bod yn broblem i ni fel sefydliad fyna, ond fe nath hyn ddigwydd o fewn wythnos bythefnos, ac mae'r system yn gweithio yn dda iawn. Dwi'n credu nath ein aelodau ni fod yn agored iawn i gwrdd mewn modd gwahanol, ac yn sicr wnaeth y staff sy'n cefnogi yr aelodau weithio'n galed iawn i drealu gwahanol systemau, a dwi'n credu bod ni'n un o'r awdurdodau cyntaf yn y wlad i gymeryd mantais o reoliadau newydd i gwrdd yn rithiol. Mae wedi dangos i ni hefyd lle oedd yna broblemau dyn ni. Un o'r problemau gyda ni oedd yn system ffôn fewnol ni ddim yn addas. Ac felly dros y cyfnod yma, fe wnaethon ni newid y system ffôn i rhywbeth sy'n llawer mwy hyblyg. Mae pobl yn gallu defnyddio o adre, felly mae hwnna wedi arwain at gwella ein gwasanaeth, rhywbeth sy'n mynd i barhau yn y dyfodol. Ac wrth gwrs mae wedi cael effaith bositif o ran dyn ni'n teithio llai o effaith negyddol carbon ac yn y blaen, ac y pwysau sy'n arno ni nawr i sicrhau bod ni'n parhau i weithio mewn ffordd hyblyg yn symud ymlaen.
Yeah, definitely this period has underlined the importance of working in partnership. Now getting all the members of a partnership on the same page was slightly more challenging, depending what the issue was. We were setting the tempo in the beginning, but glad to say that everybody's moved on to the same place, and hopefully next year will be much better.
think there was very much a partnership approach here, and from a practical element on the ground, but also, various bodies were very flexible in terms of changing deadlines where things had to be ready, amending targets there, and financial support. We were well supported by Welsh Government, who recognised that in not being able to open some of our centres and raise income there, it was having a detrimental impact on our ability. Therefore, support from compensatory income and in other ways was very valuable and contributed to us being able to do what we did. Yn y tymor byr ac yn arbennig yn ystod y flwyddyn yma, dwi'n credu bod yn aberigol bydd y niferoedd yn ymweld yn ormodol. Dwi'n credu gyda cyfyngiadau ar deithio tramor yn arbennig, mae y parciau cenedlaethol yn llefydd naturiol I bobl ymweld, ac mae rhai o'r problemau sydd wedi bod yna ers blynyddoedd, ond falle wedi cael mwy o ffocws yn ddiweddar, o bosib yn mynd I fod yn fwy heriol ar haf yma. Nag ydyn nhw wedi bod o'r blaen. Mae'n elfen bositif, dwi'n siŵr bydd y diwydiant twristiaeth yn hapus iawn I gael lluo milwyr, ond hefyd mae rhaid ni ystyried y tymor hir ac ystyried gwerth yr hyn dyn ni yn gyflwyno I bobl. Dwi'n credu os ydy bobl yn ymweld a cael un yn ganol tagfeydd traffig neu methu cael llefydd I aros yn y blaen, yna mae hwnna yn gwnhau yr hyn dyn ni'n gynnig. Felly mae yna elfen o bwysau arno ni I ddatrys rhai o'r problemau sydd wedi bod yna dros blynyddoedd, ond gobeithio nawr o bosib bydd y ffocws yma yn rhoi mwy o ymdrech a bobl yn fodlon datrys y problemau yma dros y tymor hir.
Ie, dwi'n meddwl bydd am y sioc I neb, byddwn ni'n gweld prysurdeb mawr yn parciau genedlaethol yn 2021 hefyd, a da ni wedi gweld y problemau llynedd a'r her i'r parciau genedlaethol, bod y materion yma'n bwysig I ni, wrach bod nhw ddim yn bwysig i'r cyrff lle mae'r dyletswyddau statudol I wneud y gwaith. Enghraifft, trafnidiaeth, diogelwch y cychoedd ac yn y blaen. Mae nhw yn faterion pwysig, ond mae gen y cyrff eraill heriau mwy na sydd yn bwysig I ni. Felly mae hwnna'n her a'r wers da ni wedi ddysgu fan'na bod rhaid ni symud ymlaen fel partneriaeth. Yr her arall ydy yn y tymor canolig I hir ydy mae'r cyfnod yma wedi costio'n ddrud iawn i'r wlad. Felly sut mae parciau cenedlaethol mynd I ymdopi mewn cyfnod o wasgfa ariannol ar y pwrs cyhoeddus eto. Felly mae hwnna'n her bod yn amlwg bod angen mwy o fuddsoddiad yn y parciau cenedlaethol mwyn gwarchod a gwella y cynnig, ond da ni yn ofni bod yna heriau yna'n codi eto.